become the most disciplined you have ever been in this year, 2026. Go achieve more by the end of this year than you have ever have in your entire life this year in 2026. Welcome back to the Move Podcast, motivating others virtually every day. My name is Steve, and I'm your host. Thanks for joining again. What a beautiful, beautiful day we have down here in sunny South Florida. I think it's supposed to be like 78 today. It's supposed to get back up in the 80s starting tomorrow. That being said, I am aware, I have seen that looks like there's going to be a pretty bad winter storm moving through the United States. And so, I've been praying for you guys. Hopefully you guys stay warm. You're prepared. Go get your milk and your eggs, your bread, all the things your family's going to need. Probably prepare for power outages, things like that. And be a good neighbor. One of the things it's probably the same way down here. Thank the good Lord, knock on wood. We haven't really ran into it yet where we've had to have a significant event to where everyone has to go to the grocery store and get their stuff. But I know back in the Midwest, people tend not to be too very good at neighbors. What I mean by that is, you'll go to Dillon's to go get some stuff for the next few days, just in case, and you'll see people buying 8, 9, 10 gallons of milk. It's like, really? And so then stores are selling out of stuff because people are just buying a stupid amount, an abundance of stuff. And so let's do a little less of that. Let's think of the person next to you. Let's get what you need. Make sure you have enough, but also leave enough for the next person in line. And but yeah, I do pray for everybody that's going to be impacted and affected by this winter storm. Looks like it's going to be pretty nasty. I've seen some outrageous numbers. Looks like 24 inches of snow, things like that, depending on where you're at. So yeah, let's keep those people in our prayers and let's get this thing rolling. So one of the things on my mind is that I don't know who originally said this, but it's you reap what you sow. And what that means, to dumb that down into layman's terms, is you get what you ask for. What you put in your brain is what your reality looks like. What I mean by this is if you're constantly focused on negative things, you're going to have a negative outlook. You're going to have a very negative experience. You're going to have a very negative day-to-day life. When you're able to put that stuff to the side, like politics is a prime example. I'm very into politics. I'm very up to date on politics. I have an opinion on everything. Just ask anybody that knows me. I have an opinion. I have an opinion on everything. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to go live that out. If you feel negative towards something, that doesn't mean you need to go have a negative day or spread that negative energy across everywhere. Have your opinion, kick it to the side, and move on. If there's something you can do to address that or change that outcome, obviously, yeah, take the necessary steps to do what you can. But if you're in a situation where you have an opinion on something that's going on and it's extremely negative, or you feel a really big type of way of something, you're going to have to learn how to just put that stuff to the side and move on. And I think, we live in a time where people want to hold on to their political stuff and just carry that with them. And this world is such a messed up place and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to say it's not. I don't think that's fair. I think it's probably fair to say this is a pretty messed up world that we live in. But I also think it's fair to say it's probably always been a pretty messed up place to live. I think no matter what century or era you want to point to, there was always something going on that made you go, what? And so, the time's going to keep on ticking, just like it always has. The sun's going to come up tomorrow, like it always has. And I think we need to keep that in mind as we go through our day to day. And we live in a time now, and specifically in the United States, where I guess we think we can impede on law enforcement now or federal agents, and we think that that's going to work out well in our favor. and we think somehow that's heroic or something. I don't quite understand what's going on. And it's like, agree or disagree. I was always raised and taught, you know, whether I agree or disagree with a cop pulling somebody over or them raiding this place or doing that, it doesn't matter. It is not my place to get involved and get in their way, or that's not going to go well for me. Like, A, that's common sense, and B, why would you put yourself in harm's way? And especially if you have a spouse, kids, family, pets, whatever the case, if you have something or someone relying on you or counting on you, why would you put that in jeopardy? Why would you put yourself in jeopardy? To me, that doesn't make any sense. We live in a time where we think that's heroic, and we can't keep working like that, guys. We gotta clean that up. And um, I'm not saying I agree with everything that's going on, but I don't agree with getting in the middle of a police officer doing his job. I don't think that's the right move. I don't think that's ever going to be the right move. Um, but that goes hand in hand with people get so worked up and so upset and so angry that it leads them and it drives them to do these types of things because they're not able to just put the stuff on the back burner and move on. You have people traveling from all over the place to go to a certain spot just to raise chaos. And it's like, what? Why are we doing that? And I think about my day-to-day life and how I see all these things and have an opinion on all these things. And some of these things that go on, they make me angry. But I also put the stuff to the side and move along. I have a son that's looking out for me or looking up to me. I have a wife that's counting on me. Okay. I have clients that are counting on me. And so I can't allow this stuff just to encompass me and engulf me to the point to where I am no use to any of them and I put all that in jeopardy. It doesn't make any sense. And so I strongly, strongly encourage you guys to stop with trying to be a hero. Put your capes away. Go be a normal human being. Do the right thing. Go vote. If you feel so inclined about something, I guess go peacefully, keyword peacefully, protest. But yeah, that's enough on that soapbox. I wanted to touch on that because I keep seeing it's every day now, guys, where you see some kind of incident that's going on. And it's like, why are we doing this? So just wanted to touch on it. I wanted to share this will ring. This can maybe help hit home with some of these parents out here. So for me and how I operate is I'm disciplined two ways. I'm disciplined for me, but I'm also disciplined because of my son. When I think about what do I want him to have as an adult, what do I want him to have, what do I want him to possess internally as a human being? And then I have to also ask myself, well, what do I need to do to ensure that he has these things internally? And that's when I made a post yesterday about, when you lead by example, make sure you lead with actions, not just words. That's where this comes into play. If I want my son to care about his health, then I need to demonstrate what caring about your health looks like. Set an example, set a bar, put it up there somewhere so he has at least something to go off of. He goes with me all the time to go do road work. He's not old enough to go to the gym that we go to yet, but he goes and does road work with us or with me, and I don't force him to. He asks me if he can go. Now, all he sees is me doing it, and he sees how passionate I am and how disciplined I am about doing it and getting it taken care of and knocking it out each and every day. That's all he sees, but in his mind, he's aspiring to do the same things because I'm his dad. I actually, a couple of podcasts ago, I said I don't know who he would look up to. I was just curious, and I asked him. I said, "Who's your hero? Like, who's your idol? Anybody in the world, past, present, doesn't matter. Who's somebody that you really look up to?" And he thought about it for a while, and then he said, "Well, are you and mom included?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're here, so yeah, that we count." And he's like, well, I don't know. Like, I feel like Jesus, but then I also think of you guys. So, which warmed my heart. And he's like, I don't know what's the right or wrong answer. So I had to explain to him, there's no wrong answer here, blah, blah, blah. But kids, that's most kids. He's not, I don't think he's, well, I don't want to say most kids look up to Jesus, but I think most kids do look up to their parents, especially at a younger age. And so what kind of example are you setting as a parent? These little human beings are looking up to you. What are you doing? Are you sitting around drinking Red Bull, eating potato chips, drinking beer on the weekend? Is that the example that you're setting for yourself, for your kid, for your spouse? Because they watch everything you do. They watch everything that you do, and they're going to try to mimic as much as possible. So one of the things that I've been working on currently is not cussing near as much. I'm trying to cut that out, and I'm better at it some days, and other days I'm like, man, I got to get this under control. It kind of depends on what's going on, but that's something that I have got to improve on. It's something I am working towards. And but it's because I want to set an example to my son that you don't have to talk this way to be successful or to get your point across. You don't have to start getting vulgar and start cursing and to get anywhere. Like, you don't have to handle anything like that. There's a way to handle each situation that doesn't involve being vulgar. And I need to teach him that and lead by example and not just tell him these things. And not to mention the health thing, with the food stuff that we got going on in this country, with what they put in our food, how it's made, we've got to really, really hone in on that. We have to, as we get older, there's a couple reasons here. I'm at an age where if I got cancer, people are like, oh, yeah, okay. If I started having heart problems, like, oh, yeah, I'm getting to that age where anything goes, where it'd be understandable, so to speak, if I came down with something or whatever. And so because of that, you've really got to hone in on what are you putting in your body. And I ask, when I go and talk to people, so one of the things I love about my business, Culture Ignite, is I have an ability to impact the people's bottom line. That's number one. But the second thing is I have the ability to go leave a lasting imprint outside of business on how do you conduct yourself, how do you carry yourself, how do you take care of yourself. And that's one of the biggest pieces that I love the most, even probably more so than just affecting their bottom line. Because when I walk into a business or into a company or an organization, and when I leave, I'm like, okay, you're welcome, blah, 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 move on. Then I come back and I'll have the CEO be like, man, you changed my life. I started doing this. Or I'll have one of their fielders be like, man, you changed my life. I started doing this. I'm like, man, that's kudos to you. But it's because when you walk into a room and you work on your mind, body, and spirit, you glow. People can pick that up. You glow. It's contagious. People want that glow. I mentioned it to you when I first met Brandon, how he was just glowing, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I finally figured it out. And I tell people the same thing, once they talk about the glow, I'm like, oh, this is what the glow is. But back to the nutrition side of things, it's extremely, extremely important that we understand what's going in our food. What are you putting in your body? You can go buy a new vehicle. You can go buy a new house. You can go buy all these new clothes, whatever the case may be, but you can't buy a new body. What you're doing to your body, what you're putting in your body. I mean, depending on what it is, sometimes there's no going back. And so you need to understand exactly what it is and try your best. Now, you're never going to be perfect. I'm not perfect at it, but to try your best to navigate it and try to eat as much whole foods and fresh foods as possible. And be careful on the fresh foods too, because they got pesticides sprayed on everything. And so we got to be careful. I would recommend farmers markets if you can go buy small batch veggies and fruits. That's probably your best bet. But just try to educate yourself. Try to be aware of what's going on and what you're putting on your plate for sure. And so being that example, it's important with your actions so they can understand exactly how you're executing it. Being married or being in a relationship when you have kids, you're teaching them how do you love somebody. How you treat your spouse is how you're teaching. I have a son, so how I treat his mom is I am teaching him and showing him, whether I like it or not, how to love another human being. How do you care for another human being? How do you talk to them? How do you take care of them? Those things, I can talk to him till I'm blue in the face. I know you should never do this, you should never do that. But if I'm not doing those same things and he's seeing it, it's not going to matter what I'm saying. People mimic behavior more than they mimic words. Okay, so you can watch all the speeches, you can watch all the videos you want, but when you see somebody's actions and behavior, that's what you're going to try to emulate more so than you are the speech that you heard. And so, it's our job as parents to teach and show our kids, how do you love somebody? How do you be in a long lasting relationship? Because it's never going to be perfect. And how do you handle those moments of adversity and those trials and tribulation phases? How do you get through those types of things? When tragedy hits, how do you take care of your spouse? If tragedy hit you, how do you pick yourself up and don't let that stuff bury you so you can continue on and take care of your family? These are all things that we have to teach our kids with our actions, not our words, because they're going to watch everything. They're going to see everything. It is mightily important that we take care of our spouses in front of our kids. It's mightily important you take care of your spouse in general, no matter what, but more so in front of your kids because you're setting that example, you're teaching them. And something else that recently came up is, you teach for me personally, is you teach your kid how to be a friend. My son recently had a incident or an issue with another kid, and he was all upset and didn't know how to handle it. And so my wife and I were kind of walked him through on how to handle it, and we were to give him examples but teaching our kids how to be a good friend and how to recognize somebody that's not being a good friend. And so we had to kind of walk through that with him and kind of walk through the feelings and the emotions so he could learn, well, this is what good friends do and this is what bad friends do, and you need to make your best judgment on what do you feel like the situation looks like. And people do make mistakes, and don't get that twisted up. Don't think just because somebody makes a mistake you walk away and you hate them forever. Everybody makes mistakes. It just depends on what the mistake is that's being made. And we had to kind of go through all that whole thing with them. But that's your job as a parent. And so your kids understand who's actually in your circle versus who's not in your circle. It's mightily important. I keep saying it, but it's mightily important for our kids to understand these things. Love, how to have love, how to treat love. Friends, how to have friends, how to know if you actually have friends. Health, how do they know if they're taking care of them? Do they know how to take care of themselves? We set the bar on all these things. And most of the time, I feel like most parents probably don't have in-depth conversations surrounding these types of things. We may brush over them from time to time, but we never really dive into the pool and go in depth on these issues and these things. And so they have a full grasp, a full understanding of exactly what it is that we're talking about, what it is that we're recommending. And that way they have an arsenal to go off of. But moving on, something else that's really just, I don't know, it just burns my buttons is, and I'm a sports guy, so this is a sports related topic, but Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills lost, and he's up there crying, he's upset, and people are making fun of him, and people are laughing at his quote unquote failure. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm not a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm not a Josh Allen fan, but I commend the guy for the amount of work that he puts into his craft and how much care and passion he has behind his craft. And to make fun of somebody when they fail on the biggest, one of the biggest stages you can fail on, and you want to laugh at the guy. And it's like, what are you doing? If I bet if we had a camera and we went in behind the scenes on your life, we'd all really be laughing real hard, wouldn't we? It's like, who are you to judge somebody else? That man is doing something you could never do. And it irks me and it ticks me off when I see it. And that was just the latest example. There's been multiple, but it's like, I don't boxing is a prime example. If you get into the boxing world, you'll have these fights where They last for 30 seconds. They last for a minute. And everybody in the crowd wants to laugh at the other person. Oh, I can't believe they even got in there. It's like, you know how much courage it takes to even get in the ring? Like, how many people have actually been in the ring? Just one-on-one, lights on. You know how much courage that takes? Unless you're willing to go do it, I suggest you probably don't make fun of somebody else that is doing it. And it bothers me. It always will, and it probably always that mentality will probably always exist. But I just wanted to call it out and point it out because it's garbage. It's a garbage mentality, and I hope if you're listening and you have that mentality, you recognize it and you change. Because I will never stand for it. If you're ever around me and I hear something like that, we're going to go at it. I will not tolerate it. You know, if you want to root somebody on, go for it. If the person you love is going against somebody, you know, have sportsmanship. And that's garbage to sit there and laugh at somebody that's trying to live out their dream and do the best that they can. And we want to turn around and make fun of them for it. That's garbage. And we need to be better as people in that aspect. And again, teach our kids not to act like that, not to behave like that. And yeah, that's all I have to say on that. But we got to be better. The last thing I really want to touch on is the importance of discipline, because I'm going to tell you, discipline is going to carry you when you have no motivation. And I'll give you an example. This morning was a prime example. So I didn't get very good sleep last night for whatever reason, not sure why. And so I woke up extremely, extremely tired, way more tired than I normally am. And I had every excuse and every reason to not go to the gym and lift like I normally would. And I still dragged myself out of bed and went to the gym because I love myself, because I am going to be honest with myself. I'm going to have that integrity for myself to always do the right thing no matter what. I didn't record anything today. I don't need to record something to make myself feel like I accomplished something. You know, whether lights are on or lights are off, I'm still going to continue to do what I need to do because I love myself. I love my family. And at the end of the day, discipline is always going to kick in over motivation. There's a lot of days I'm not motivated to go put my body through hell at the gym. But I am disciplined enough that I go put my body through hell at the gym. And, you know, like these walks, some of these walks, like starting probably today, it's going to be hot. The sun is hot. I don't care. It's part of what I do. It's part of who I am. It's just what we do nowadays. And so I go do road work. You know, sometimes Bible study and reading, it's like, man, I don't feel like doing that right now. Well, you know, it's not up to me. It's not about what you feel like doing. It's about what you need to get done. And again, I love myself enough that I'm going to take care of myself. Whether I want to or not, I'm still going to do it for me. And, you know, developing that discipline, it's a muscle. You have to work that muscle and develop that muscle and build that muscle up and just do things over and over. And, you know, if you hate doing something, I think Mike Tyson said it best, do it like you love it. That's discipline. And it's important we develop it. It's important we develop it in front of our kids so our kids can start developing it. And if you don't have kids, it's important to have discipline in general because that's what's going to carry you through. And if you can develop it, it'll always be there. It'll always be there. You may not be exercising it, but the foundation of discipline will always be there. It'll always be at least within your grasp. You can always correct any situation that you're ever in with discipline. Now, there's that 100 rule. If you work on something for 18 minutes a day for 100 days in a row, you'll be better than 95% of people at whatever it is that you're working on. 18 minutes a day, 100 days in a row, you will be better than 95% of the people that whatever it is you're working on. It could be tennis, basketball, it could be sewing, reading, whatever it is. 18 minutes a day, 100 days straight. That's the 100 rule. It's if you work on something and you discipline yourself to do it over and over and over, you will improve. You will get better at it. And then on the back end, your discipline is going to become much better. And that's what's going to carry you through. It's going to carry you through in your work life, your professional life, your home life. It's going to carry you through each and every phase of your life. You'll always have discipline. And discipline is the key to success. That is how you win the game. You have to have discipline. You got to have a few other things, but if you don't have discipline, it don't matter what else you have. Because you're not going to succeed at all. You have to have discipline. You cannot win. Will repeat, you will not win if you do not have discipline. I don't care how much talent you have in the world. If you don't have discipline, it's over. It does not matter. We all have God-given abilities. We all have God-given talents. But if you can't harness that and hone in on your discipline, you throw it out the window and think of something else, because that is not going to work. Okay, we've got to develop discipline as a whole society. We've got to be more disciplined. Not to mention, if you have structure in your life, you have so much more freedom. If you're structured between this time and this time I do this, between this time and this time I do this, you have way more freedom, because you're not thinking about, well, when am I going to get this done? When am I going to get this done? You already have it scheduled out. You already have it blocked out. So your mind can let go of that stuff, and you can just go enjoy life and do the things you need to do. Stick to the block or the schedule that you had set. And you have way more freedom. It is a way easier way to live. I live and die by the calendar I have in my phone. My calendar keeps me lined out each and every day. Without that thing, I would be completely lost. But you've got to live on some kind of plan or some kind of structure. You have to. That's also part of being disciplined. You also got to be disciplined enough to update the dang thing so it notifies you when you have things coming up. Like you do got to put a little bit of legwork in here. It's not just going to happen. But discipline is that's going to be the bottom line. It's always going to be the deciding factor of whether you win or you lose. Because what they say, even a blind squirrel can find a nut. You may win, and sometimes winning the first time is the easiest time to win. It's sustaining those wins. It's building off of the wins. That's where the discipline kicks in. Where they say it's really hard to get out of bed when you're sleeping with silk sheets. It's hard to stay hungry when you're eating good, right? Like, that's when discipline kicks in. And I hope each and every one of you that are watching or listening, we start developing this, and we start really, really honing in on it. We work on it. It's 2026. Just knock it out. Become the most disciplined you have ever been in this year, 2026. Go achieve more by the end of this year than you ever have in your entire life this year in 2026. You can do it. Promise you can do it. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourself. I'll talk to you guys next week. Enjoy your weekend. Maybe tune in to some UFC fights this weekend on Paramount Plus. They're finally back after 6 weeks off. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. God bless.